Okay, we are going to show you our last project, which is the paint throwing project. Now for this video, it's going to be a little bit of demonstration and a lot of our thoughts on variations on this project. So for the sake of my house, we are going to do this demonstration within the box, but I would highly recommend you do this project outside on the ground where kids can walk all the way around whatever surface they're painting. And as you'll remember from our supply list, you can either do this on an individual level where each child makes a painting, or you can do it collaboratively. If you're doing it individually, you'll want to have that Bristol board or the cardstock, which would be the most affordable option. And I would make sure you have enough for each individual child to do 3 to 5 small pieces, because this is going to go fairly fast if you're doing it on an individual level. If you're doing a large collaborative piece like we did, and like you saw the pictures from our program, that was a canvas drop cloth from the hardware store. So the nice thing about that is that they're actually painting on canvas just like an artist, and that canvas material is going to hold up really well, and you're going to get a really cool, gigantic finished product. So those are a couple options for your painting surface. And Catherine, do you want to talk a little bit about the paints?
Sure. So you are going to fill up little Dixie cups, or they can just be regular styrofoam or paper cups, with large amounts of paint. And you really want to do a lot of paint because we're throwing it, and so there's just going to be a lot of paint on the finished product. So you really want to stock up on your paint. So here we have several cups filled with paint, and we also have liquid watercolor, and that just adds more variety to the finished product. So the paint will be very dark and very thick, and then the watercolor will add some transparency and just some more nuance to the final product.
And the nice thing about the liquid watercolor as well is that you can stretch it with water. So even if you're running low, you could add water to this bottle, even fill it up about halfway, and you're still going to get quite a bit of pigment out of this little bit of liquid watercolor you have left. And you can either put the liquid watercolor in the cup, or if you're feeling very generous and you don't mind if all of your liquid watercolors get used, you can let families squirt the liquid watercolor directly out of the bottle, which is going to give you a different type of movement, and it's just going to be a different sort of active art making experience.
Yes, it's going to squirt very far, and the kids get really excited about that. And we've done that with the actual paint tubes as well. So this was towards the end when we realized we weren't going to have a lot of paint left, so might as well just let the kids go to town with it. So the kids were just dumping the paint, and that was really fun for them as well. Okay, so we also have our paint brushes. And so each child can pick a cup and pick a paintbrush, and then they're just going to throw the paints onto the surface that you've chosen.
And you also want to remind caregivers and kids to get a ton of paint on their brush. So you can see on my brush here, the paint is like sitting, it's like I have a scoop of paint on my brush. And the more paint, the better the splatter. And then you want to encourage your artists and your participants to get up and to move all the way around, and that you want to get a full body motion out of this. So I'm not really going to be able to do that at the table, but you can imagine how especially a kid could pick their arm up all the way over their head and sling it down, because that's how you're going to get your paint really far.
And when we did this program at my library, we were able to tie it into the art of Jackson Pollock. And so the kids might be too young to remember that name, but it is a great literacy and art connection to say that there was a person who really pioneered this form of painting, and to show them works by Jackson Pollock.
And that technique within art history is actually called action painting. And here we are doing a project that is very active, and we want that active experience. So some nice strong art historical connections as well. I'm going to drip a little liquid watercolor on here too, and then we're going to show you the finished product. So Catherine used the paintbrush to put some red liquid watercolor, And then I'm using the bottle just to drip the liquid watercolor on there. And on this one, I would say no real limits on amounts of color. The more color, the better, because on other projects we've talked about limiting color to avoid too much blending that turns brown and muddy, but since we're just throwing the pure paint directly onto the canvas or paper in this scenario, it's great to use a lot of colors because it's not going to blend together, which is nice.
All right, so drum roll. This is the final product. And you can see it has a lot of color and a lot of movement, and it just turned out really bright and very fun, and so the kids are always really excited to take this piece home. And you can also just send it home in the box, because this would obviously be something pretty messy to transport in a car or to walk home with. So just giving them the box to take home can be a really good solution as well.
And another adaptation, you know, you can see how even when we picked the box up, the liquid watercolor started to drip and move. So you can also think about this project, which is probably something you've seen before, where people are using boxes to move paint around and to make that a movement component. For us and the project that we're teaching here for this lesson, it's a throwing project. But with all of these materials, with all of these projects, there are always a lot of creative adaptations you can do. And I find the more that we teach these types of projects, the more we sort of get in the rhythm of thinking about those adaptations.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.